The Toronto Raptors are reportedly frontrunners to land superstar point guard Damian Lillard in a trade, and there's been a whirlwind of news going on about the Toronto Raptors' possibility of landing Damian Lillard, bringing him up north to be our next disgruntled superstar to acquire. So we're going to break all that down, including the potential of Gradey Dick getting sent back in a package according to a report, and a whole bunch more. So let's dive into all the news, as basically Mark J. Spears dropped a bombshell today saying that according to two high-ranking executives, they believe that the Toronto Raptors are frontrunners to land Damian Lillard, and to not be surprised, they wouldn't be surprised if he ended up in the six. Now, we've seen smoke about Damian Lillard coming to the Toronto Raptors that has really heated up last week, and, little rumblings here and there over the course of the summer, but Dame obviously requested a trade. He's a superstar point guard. There's no other ways to put it. I mean, if you look at his stats just for last season, sure, he's a little bit older, sure, he's paid a lot, but 32 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists, an absolute monster out there on the court, and he demanded a trade away from the Portland Trailblazers earlier this summer, and his preferred destination is the Miami Heat. And we've heard a bunch of things every single week about this trade request, in the news over the course of the summer. And the Raptors in the past week, noise has really heated up. The rumors, the rumblings, the minor reports, the drop in dimes tweets, right? They started to pick up late last week. And then, over this weekend, after everything was going on, right? We were covering pretty well Dame in every single video. I took a couple days to really digest everything, see if the smoke would die out, but no, it has heated up. And now, according to Mark J. Spears, the Raptors are frontrunners, and Michael Grange, love him or hate him about his takes, he did give some context into everything that's going on, basically saying that yes, he can confirm that the Toronto Raptors, per sources, are very much in the mix, and certainly not all the way there, not even halfway there probably, of getting a deal done, but progress has been made. And yes, and Grange talks about, hey, we've been rumored about in a bunch of packages. Fans have been seeing this left, right, and center. So, Masai Ujiri's been the boy who cried wolf every now and then since Kawhi Leonard in terms of acquiring superstars and all these types of things. Well, Grange is talking about how this one could be a little bit serious, as basically goes on to say that one league executive I spoke to, or Michael Grange spoke to the weekend, says that if in fact the Blazers are going to move their iconic point guard in their rebuild, in hopes of rebuilding, it will happen early this week. Otherwise, the urgency may pass, and they might wait until the trade deadline to, the markets get a little bit crazier as the Nets did with Kevin Durant. So, that could be the strategy. So if a deal's getting done, if a deal is happening, it's likely going to happen in this week. And given the timelines as we're going to discuss, that could be advantageous for the Toronto Raptors if a deal does end up happening, because the Heat seem a bit on the outside looking at now at this point. And basically the article goes on to say that by all accounts, the Raptors seem at least reasonably confident they can maneuver their way to the front of the line past the Miami Heat, which is Lillard's preferred destination, and ahead of a team such as the Brooklyn Nets, who have draft picks to get something done if Portland is open to taking on the last 2 years of Ben Simmons' contract. The Orlando Magic could also make themselves heard, per sources. So the Raptors feel confident that they can give the best package, and they certainly can. Looking at our assets, looking at our dealable assets. Obviously, if the Heat wanted to deal Jimmy Butler or Bam Adebayo, yes, they'd have a better package to throw out than the Toronto Raptors. But they're not going to deal one of those two guys. Heck, the Nets are very unlikely to deal Mikal Bridges. So the Raptors, given our multitude of assets and our very confusing roster, guys like OG Anunoby, guys like Gary Trent Jr., heck, rookie prospect Gradey Dick, a couple picks that we have in the future, right? Precious Achua, different pieces that we currently have. I'm not even talking about Scotty Barnes, because apparently, according to a report that came out this weekend, the Raptors have made known they're not dealing away Scotty Barnes, and it's unlikely they're going to trade away Pascal Siakam in a Dame trade, in my opinion. So, it's the Raptors still have a lot of pieces that they can deal away to the Portland Trailblazers in a potential package, and it makes sense why they believe they can outmaneuver the Heat or the Nets. And basically, more reports have come out, and this is coming from Mark J. Spears, and this is the stuff that I've seen a lot of people sort of get frustrated with, as the Portland Trailblazers are interested in Gradey Dick. The Blazers would want Dick in any type of potential package that they do involving Damian Lillard to the Toronto Raptors. And this is the piece that is fairly interesting, because a lot of Toronto Raptors fans are very excited about their new lottery pick. Three-point shooter fills a need for what the Toronto Raptors can do. He is cooking out there in the Rico Hines sort of summer league action. Obviously, we're not going to read into that too much, because every Toronto Raptor looked nice in that last season, even though Gradey Dick looks like he's finishing well. Scotty Barnes looks amazing in those runs. But basically, the Blazers want Gradey Dick. And while it would be hurtful to see Gradey Dick dealt away in a potential package for Damian Lillard, given the fact we didn't even get a chance to see him on the court, didn't get a chance to see him play for the Toronto Raptors. Personally, this might be a positive because one, rookies generally take some time to really grow into the players that they're going to be. And the Raptors, they acquire Damian Lillard, are going to be win now. And we're not going to have the leverage. We're not going to have that sort of comfort of developing young prospects and hoping they blossom to the players that we hope they can be. Gradey Dick will be thrown into the fire if he stays on the Toronto Raptors and a Damian Lillard team. So, Gradey Dick might not be the perfect fit, the perfect timeline if we acquire Damian Lillard. And two, this could mean we keep a guy like Gary Trent Jr. It could mean we don't have to throw in more veteran assets in a deal, for Dame, right? Obviously, I'd imagine one of OG Anunoby, Gary Trent Jr., or heck, if you want to talk about it, Scotty Barnes, even though I don't want to see him dealt in any type of package for Damian Lillard. But basically, one of Gary and OG Anunoby would have to be in a deal. And if Gradey Dick is thrown in as a very valuable asset, I mean, he was a lottery pick. He looks very encouraging in Summer League. The Rico runs are great. He fills a role, a timeline for the Blazers that makes sense. Throwing him into a package might mean we get to keep a guy like Gary Trent Jr., who, in terms of the Raptors are trying to maneuver their way, I'm not saying if they make a trade involving OG, Gradey Dick, and maybe a Boucher or something along those lines to make the money work, right, that they're guaranteed going to be a championship contender, even though a starting lineup of Damian Lillard, right, well, depending on the shooting guard, right, but, being able to keep Gary Trent Jr. into that lineup, a starting lineup of Damian Lillard, Gary Trent Jr., Scotty Barnes, Pascal Siakam, Jakob Poeltl, with Dennis Schroeder coming off the bench, with McDaniels coming there off the bench who we acquired, potentially even a healthy Otto Porter on the roster, right? Precious Achiuwa could potentially be still here, right? That sort of roster looks very, very encouraging to me as a Toronto Raptors fan, and gets me excited going into this season. Are we guaranteed a championship? No, but it looks a heck of a lot better than what kind of have running around. And with Gary in the starting lineup, rather than moving a guy like Schroeder into that position, maybe Otto Porter Jr., if he's healthy, could slide into that role depending on what we'd have to give up, right? It just makes me feel more comfortable. If we have to give Gradey Dick up to do that, then it is what it is. So, it's interesting. It's we'll see what ends up happening there, but we also had a report come out saying the Miami Heat believe they could win the East with their current roster, so they will not act desperate in order to acquire Damian Lillard. So the Raptors might be able to sneak their way and make one of these deals happen as well. I mean, over the summer, right, or over the weekend, we've seen a bunch of reports essentially come out and say, the Raptors are interested. They're buying in. Matt Moore did drop one report basically indicating the Raptors are sort of a smoke screen to make leverage offers the same way that the Oklahoma City Thunder did with the LA Clippers, in terms of, we'll potentially send Paul George and Russell Westbrook to Toronto to keep Kawhi over there, and then that whole catastrophe happened with the LA Clippers. I digress, but, there is a potential, all these talks, all these things are happening for leverage and all these types of things, but basically, with all the reports, everything that's sort of coming out now is the Raptors are seriously interested. They're in talks. Toronto Raptors are currently frontrunners to land Damian Lillard, and I'm flustered even just thinking about it. And just hear me out. Like, if we send out, I didn't cook up the trade machine. Maybe we could get some blockbuster deals, get something, sort of rolling in terms of potential packages, but something centered around OG Anunoby, which would hurt me to see him go on the way out. But bring back a guy like Dame, you have to give up serious assets. Gradey Dick, who's a young player, going to have a lot of potential in the league. A guy that I'm not that happy dealing away, but those two guys as the centerpieces of packages. Going back for Damian Lillard, maybe a Boucher thrown in there, right? Maybe some future draft capital. I say go for it, man. I say we don't even have our draft pick for next season. We're not in a place to rebuild. As long as we're not dealing away Scotty Barnes, as long as we're not giving up Pascal and pieces where we wouldn't really have a chance to compete, go for it. We'll see what happens. I don't know. We'll see what ends up happening. I'm sure the rumors are not going to slow down over the next couple days, so definitely subscribe to the Raptors Digest if you want to stay up to date with everything regarding this team. Anyways, folks, you guys are the best to make it this far. I'm signing out. Cheers.